Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Ladies, gentlemen, everyone, how are you doing tonight? What an absolute win for the Winnipeg Jets. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2022-2023 Winnipeg Jets. This is a different team. They have completely flipped the script. What a fantastic game. An absolute playoff like win by the Winnipeg Jets, 4-2 over the Tampa Bay Lightning. This was like a playoff game. I said that last game when they played the Flames and beat them, they gritted out a win. And this one had all the intensity, all the physicality, all the emotion of a playoff game. And the Winnipeg Jets are your victors. It was a very interesting game. By the way, my name is Brady. I'll be hosting tonight, of course. And I'll be honest, start of the game seemed a little rocky. We'll get into talking about the game, but from the first little bit, I didn't really think that the Jets were going to do that great. Luckily, they proved me wrong, but hey, think you know which way it's going to go. Make your bet with Sports Interaction, whether it's hockey, football, or basketball. Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live and play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all that sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/STPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/STPN. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Woo! Wow. What an intense game. I have not been that animated at home watching a game in a long time. Probably since the Leafs game early in the season, but I think that was before Game Over was going. But luckily we have our Leafs game coming up, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Tonight, what was going on with this game? Rick Bowness coming into his 2,600th game behind a bench. Oh my goodness. How many, someone do the math, figure out how many seasons that is. Wow. Just an incredible career from him so far. He's been an absolute shining beacon of light here in Winnipeg, providing, some much needed criticism. Even in the games that the Jets win, he'll come out and say, I thought that our effort wasn't good enough tonight. Exactly what the Jets need to become this new team that they are this year. This is not last year's team at all. Wow, incredible. And coming into this game, we have the reinforcements have arrived. We have a slew of players drawing back into the lineup. Of course, there was Blake Wheeler coming back from a ruptured testicle, which he played through. I apologize to anyone in the audience who didn't want to hear about that, but hey, he's back. He's feeling better. We'll talk about his game as well. Obviously, Nikolai Ehlers, who has missed 36 games this season, coming into this one, finally getting Rick Bowness gets to coach him because, the two games that he did play at the start of the season, obviously Bowness was out with COVID. You have Cole Perfetti drawing back in after, not as bad of an injury. And then, of course, Nate Schmidt as well, too, on the back end. He played and a certain someone didn't get to play, but I'm sure we'll tackle that later. To which I say, my take, surprisingly level-headed. That's okay with me. But yeah, what a fantastic game. The Jets obviously win 4-2 over the Lightning. Coming to this game, for me, this was a very interesting, storyline-wise. When it comes to this game, obviously you have the Tampa Bay Lightning coming into town. They're one of the Goliaths of the NHL. Obviously, the past 3 years they've been to the Stanley Cup final, but won 2 of those. So this is easily a team that you look at and you go, this is a measuring stick game. We can try to figure out where we kind of sit within the league. And I think they came into this with the same amount of points. Obviously, the Jets leaving with 2 more than the Lightning. But obviously with that, though, too, you have 4 players all coming back from injury at the same time. So, as Rick Bowness was saying coming into this game, there was likely going to need to be some watching of the minutes to make sure that, these guys get kind of eased back in. And it kind of showed, starting off of the game, the first period, pretty rough, pretty sloppy. Jets get outshot 12-4. And, just as Nikolai Ehlers said it in the first intermission, lots of room for improvement. And I think that is exactly what we saw. That is exactly what we saw. Sorry, we got some people in the chat here. That's exactly what we saw from the Jets. It's a completely different team in the second and third period. Sorry, I'm a little lost my train of thought here. But yeah, no, fantastic game other than the first period. Again, started slow, but again, what can you really expect from a team with 4 guys coming back from injury? Specifically looking at Nick Ehlers is obviously the one who I was the most interested in seeing, how he would play coming off of a 36-game injury. And honestly, from the start of the game, I thought that Nikolai Ehlers had actually a pretty rough start. I found he was missing some reads that he usually wouldn't miss. And I found that he, maybe wasn't jumping when he needed to, but I think that all kind of figured itself out as the game went on. Looking at the other guys, Cole Perfetti, honestly, wouldn't have even guessed that he was injured. He fit seamlessly back into the lineup, was very, very effective with, Scheifele and Wheeler, and we can kind of talk about the decision to, put those lines back together. We'll talk about that again, like I said, a little bit further in the future. Nate Schmidt looked just perfectly, at home. I thought he had a fantastic game. No issues on my end. There's another guy on the defense who I found a little bit more frustrating to watch, but I'll try not to beat up on him every single episode. But it is what it is. And then Blake Wheeler, when it comes to that, sorry, just a moment here, guys. Got some goobers in the chat. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. And you guys are making me lose my train of thought here, guys. Would really appreciate if you guys stopped. Anyways, coming back to this one. Just a moment. My apologies, everyone. Okay, my bad. Continuing on, I thought that the Jets were just a moment. Sorry, I'm having issues here. Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, Blake Wheeler. I thought Blake Wheeler looked, honestly, nothing special from him. When it came in regards to how he was playing today, it felt like he kind of slotted back in. Seemed like he was a little rusty, and I thought the decision to put back Cole Perfetti with Mark Scheifele as well as Blake Wheeler was kind of interesting. In my opinion, it was. It makes sense to put those guys back together just due to the fact that there's some familiarity there. Cole Perfetti hasn't been out of the lineup for that long. Blake Wheeler a little bit longer. So it makes sense to try and bring that put those guys back together and get that chemistry rolling again that they were kind of developing prior to injury. Other than that, though, I found it very interesting that Nikolai Ehlers was placed on that line with Kyle Connor as well as Pierre-Luc Dubois. But considering, Pierre-Luc Dubois as well as Nick Ehlers have kind of had haven't really had a great history of playing well together. And I expected a lot more of a blender from Rick Bowness today, considering, like I said, all the different injuries. But it is what it is. Moving back to how the game kind of flowed, getting back to my train of thought, I apologize once again. The second period was a completely different period for the Jets. One thing I've got to give Rick Bowness props for is that he he's been around so long. Obviously, he knows what he needs to get out of his players. After a first period where they, a pretty abysmal showing from the Jets, only 4 shots. Luckily, Kyle Connor ties it up right before the end of the period with that, with incredible patience on that goal, on the 4-on-4. Obviously they go to break. You can only imagine that Rick Bowness went into the room, gave him a good speech, let the guys, get fired up and ready to go for the second. And the second is when everything kind of all happened for the Jets. One thing I got to give them shit for, you can't give up a goal a minute and a half into the second period, especially after you, score a goal to tie it up and kind of get the momentum coming back to you. One thing that I found really interesting between, the Jets and kind of the whole measuring stick discussion against the Tampa Bay Lightning. One thing that I think the Jets could improve on just in general going forward is the fact that they seem to get a little bit caught up in the game. One thing I have to give Tampa commend them for is they seem to constantly, no matter what happens, no matter what momentum shift there is, they keep going, they keep playing their game, they continue and continue until the wheels fall off, which is kind of where the third period happens. I wrote down here, before we get into the third, I wrote down here specifically on the 5-on-3 that the Jets needed to score here. This is when PLD ends up tipping the goal home from Josh Morrissey when all that chaos was created in front. And the Jets needed to score there to try and turn the momentum. And I was very surprised to see how little that affected the Tampa Bay Lightning. When it comes to the power play, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but one thing that I found that was really interesting, at least in the second period, was that Tampa didn't really let anything affect them. They kept playing their game. They kept going. Then the third period happens. All hell breaks loose. The physicality, gets turned up to 11, and it was a really, really crazy and intense game. I got to give props to the power play today. Actually, just in general, special teams for the Jets. They were the ones that got this done. In a game, one thing that I really need to commend the Jets is that, they're a team that tends to take a lot of penalties, whether it's, the stuff on the back end when it comes to not really, moving your feet enough. We have some forwards that are not always on their man defensively. So therefore, it kind of causes a bit of an issue. Whether it's PLD getting in people's faces and constantly pissing them off. We all know the whole chart about how, the more penalties you take, the more likely you are to get makeup calls, get calls going both ways. And one of the things that has been a key part of the success of the Jets this year is the fact that their penalty kill has gotten so much better, and as well as their power play has continually gotten better and better. So, this is a team that is able to, while, in this game here at 5-on-5, the Jets got kind of slapped a little bit, at least for the first, 2 periods of the game. But the fact that the Jets were able to take what they were given in regards to, power plays and continually not letting the Lightning get under the skin too much. I thought that was, a very important piece to this game. Obviously, if this game was just 5-on-5, then that is, then that's probably a tougher game for the Jets to really get some momentum going. But like I said, the third period was absolutely crazy. Penalties here, missed calls here. It was kind of rough. It was a little rough all around, but the Jets get luckily gifted another 5-on-3 win. I think it was Eric Chernak, throws the puck over the boards, and the Jets make hay with that. Kyle Connor scores again, continuing, his point streak. Josh Morrissey, 3 points tonight. Is that Josh Morrissey? I think it is. Just an incredible game all around when it came to the special teams. I think we do have to praise Pierre-Luc Dubois getting 2 goals tonight. Both of them tip goals. And that has been kind of a bit of the root of the offense for the Jets for a while now. At the start of the season, Rick Bowness said, the D are coming, the D points are coming. And one of the important things is that the Jets have really relied on this tip game to create some chaos in front. And I find that, tonight was a perfect example of how that game works to their favor. But yeah, this in my mind is a perfect Rick Bonus blueprint game, where as they always say, you get punched. It's not about if you can get punched or not. It's about how you react to that punch and how you get back up and keep fighting. And I thought that the Jets did very, very well today to not only continue to play with the intensity, but also match that intensity, but not go too far over the line. Obviously, we saw that come to a head with Mark Scheifele and Anthony Cirelli having a quick little scrap. It's not often you get a Mark Scheifele fight, but it is what it is. When it comes to the, I thought the reffing was a little bit rough near the end of the game. There were some missed calls, specifically the one on Scheifele, and I think that kind of led to that. That fight, and as well as that hit on Hayden Fleury, which again, I got to give props to Mark Scheifele. That was a very, he used his emotion in a way that wasn't being, whiny, wasn't, slashing his stick or anything like that. He got in a guy's face, delivered a clean hit. Unfortunately, it is what it is. And also, it was very, very nice to see the Jets score on the power play when Steven Stamkos cross-checks Nick Ehlers in the back after he got the puck from him, threw him into the boards, stands over top of him. Anthony Cirelli also gets in, starts saying stuff to Ehlers, giving him a bit of face wash. This was just a very satisfying game as a Jets fan to watch your team win. But yeah, it is what it is. Looking at the game, again, as we kind of said, the Jets did very well in a game where, they probably were likely going to be, the team with a lot more rust. Although I believe the Lightning may have played just the other night, or are on a road trip. I can't remember exactly when they last played. But it was a very, very good game, played by the Jets. And I also think that we should kind of look forward a little bit now. This was, like I said, a very playoff style game. But, we're not at the playoffs yet. And I think it's important to kind of look at this and go, all right, what can the Jets improve when it comes to a playoff style matchup? As much as I was praising it, the power play, everything like that, in the off season, or not the off season, the postseason, you don't get power plays as much. So I think the Jets really do need to try to do their best to improve at 5v5, because that's where the majority of the game is played, and even more especially in the playoffs. Obviously we'll talk about potentially going to get someone at the trade deadline, but it is what it is. We'll get to that in a moment. Do you got any questions in the chat here? Anything they want to any thoughts you guys had here? I will bring up the fact that, as all these guys are coming back, it was very interesting. Obviously, Michael Eyssimont got put on waivers just the other day, and, signaling to the team that Ville Heinola is here to stay, at least for a little bit. Unfortunately, Michael Eyssimont claimed by the San Jose Sharks today. I wish him the best. He was a really good Jet. He gave it his all while he's here. And I'm actually really happy for him, excited for him to get a shot with a team where, there's a lot more availability in the lineup for him to, just casually enter in and play his best. You look at a guy like back in the day, like Alexander Barabanov on previously was on the Leafs, could barely crack the lineup, goes to San Jose. All you need is time and space, and sometimes you're able to get it done. But yeah, like I said, this is a very odd time for the Jets because, they are fighting through all these injuries. They still have a bunch of guys still on IR that they will be getting back eventually. But I still think they do need to make a move for the deadline. As we all kind of saw, there's still a lot of room for improvement on the 5v5 side of things. A mid-6 winger would do plenty of help, or even a third line center, which allows you to put some guys on the wing, move some guys up, move some things around. That's what I think would be, very important for the Jets. And the one thing I'll say is, they're accumulating cap space every single day. One of the big issues that the Jets had last year and years in past, other than obviously the team being not as good, but when it came to the trade deadline, if they weren't just going to sell or half sell and kind of buy, the Jets have never really been able to accrue cap space. They've always had Brian Little's contract on their books. They've always been haven't been able to accrue cap space, which, if you're not aware, LTIR allows you to go over the cap by a certain amount, but obviously that does not, unfortunately, doesn't allow you to accumulate cap space. By not going onto LTIR and not going over the cap, you're still allowed to, every game that you play with, only $80 million instead of $82.5 million, you get that incremental prorated little amount added to your thing. So looking at the Jets right now, they probably should have about $5.5 million come trade deadline time, which is going to be very, very exciting to see what they're going to do. I think they're going to go big fish hunting, but yeah. With all of the guys coming back to the lineup, one of the things that we were praising about, how the Jets would, about the fact that, there are some pros. Obviously, there are many cons with injuries, but one of the pros that the Jets had was they kind of got to have a second version of their last game of the preseason, last game where they got to kind of really figure out, who do they want to keep on the team? Who of the AHL call-ups has made enough of a name for themselves? Guys like Kevin Stenlund, who, by the way, I thought Janssen Fjallby had a fantastic game again today. I think that they've proven that they can be a good little duo for the Jets. In regards to 5v5, they were the best line as far as, constantly getting possession, having good space. But one of the things now, we're kind of at the point where there's still competition being bred in the lineup. It's just not on the bottom end now. It's more on the top end, especially when you look at the power play. One of the things that that is good now is that you're able to create a little more competition. Now, there's only, 5 spots on that power play, and I think 4 of them are very, very clearly taken up by Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois, as well as Josh Morrissey. And so obviously that 5th spot is going to be someone between, Nick Ehlers, Blake Wheeler, Cole Perfetti. Those are the 3 guys who are kind of vying for that spot. Obviously, Nick Ehlers is the guy who's going to get the first reign there, and he did again tonight. If you didn't see the power play lines that were drawn up tonight, were Ehlers on that first power play, and then the second power play was Cole Perfetti, Blake Wheeler, who else was it? Adam Lowry, Nate Schmidt, as well as Neil Pionk. And I as the season continues, I'm sorry. I'm a little all over the place today. It was a bit of a weird start to the show, but but looking at this one here, geez, I'm just losing my train of thought every single time I try to talk. I apologize, everyone. Oh goodness. Who is this? Atacam man in the chat. Send 20 down. He's the worst of the extras. You know what? I agree, and that's one of the things I found a little bit frustrating tonight was him on the Sorry, got some really frustrating messages in the chat here today. I would really appreciate it if you guys could please stop. All right, thank you. Anyways, where was I? Yeah, Carson Kuhlman. Carson Kuhlman has been a very interesting addition to the lineup here for the Jets. He provides a lot on the defensive side of things. That is where he is, good. I thought he's kind of okay on the PK. I'm not the greatest at analyzing the PK, I'll be honest with you guys. But it is what it is. I thought Carson Kuhlman had a pretty mad game. And one of the issues I really do have with him, he just does not have any finish. There are times where Morgan Barron tonight and Adam Lowry set him up for actually some pretty nice kind of backdoor passes, and just like the game a couple games ago when he was with Scheifele, and he just was not able to put anything into the into the net. he's constantly getting looks in the slot, and he's not able to either, one, get a stick on it, or two, put the puck past the goalie. And that's a really frustrating thing from a guy who's playing currently on the third line, who is being tasked with playing big minutes. Because, Rick Bowness loves putting Adam Lowry up against the opposing team's top line. I think that Carson Kuhlman should be pushed down the lineup. And as Atacam Man said in the chat there, he's the worst of the extras. I don't know if he's the worst of the extras, but right now he certainly isn't proving anything to me. I would much rather have David Gustafsson playing than Carson Kuhlman. And again, I think Carson Kuhlman can provide some value for the Jets, but I think that's on a fourth line. I don't think it's on a second or on a third line. I'd rather have, maybe I'm not sure about Fialbi there, but I definitely would rather have maybe like a Kevin Stenlund there if you want to put Gus back in the middle on the fourth line. I think Kevin Stenlund has been absolutely fantastic today. But yeah, so other than that, I do apologize. It was a bit of a weird show. I'm going to end it off here on just talking about the January that the Jets do have ahead of them. As I kind of said last time, 15 games in 30 days or so. But one of the things that we can look forward to is that the Jets are playing some weaker opponents coming up, other than pretty much the Leafs, which you hear to hear first. We're going to have Steve Dangle on the show for that one. That should be a really fun show. But other than the Leafs, the Jets are playing some weaker teams. Obviously, it is on the road, so it isn't, no game is an easy game, but this is when the Jets need to start to make hay. They have all their pieces back in their lineup. They just beat a team that's been to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 times in a row. You need to keep the foot on the pedal, make some hay while the sun is shining. But yeah, it's a very fun day to be a Jets fan. And I'm very excited to see what they're going to do, come the month of January. And yeah. As far as Game Over Winnipeg goes, we'll be back on Sunday. Liz will be on the show. I may join her, but it's kind of up in the air at the moment. I doubt it. But either way, what a fantastic game by the Jets today. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. It's Friday, have a couple drinks, if that's your cup of tea, and enjoy the weekend. Of course, though, stay safe. Thank you all for joining me. Have yourselves a wonderful day.